All right, welcome back to another episode of the Getting After It podcast. We're going solo again this time, which hopefully you like. But either way, we're going to be talking about some interesting things today. Kind of go through some updates about the podcast, where we're at, and then just touch on a few things I want to go into regarding going after your goals and staying committed to those. So, first and foremost, a few updates and housekeeping, I guess you can say, of the podcast. One is I want to make it more conversational. So, with that being said, I'm going to make more of an effort to try and find people that I can bring on and interview every week. Obviously, it's not going to happen every single week, but I'm trying my best to just at least line up someone who I could speak with and have a conversation with. So, stay tuned for that. We are going to be trying to grab more people on. And with that also said, I want not only it to be conversational, but to be fun and to be interactive. And a lot of it is, I've talked about the idea of getting after it, what that means, but I don't want that to pigeonhole me or like put me in a corner to where I can't have someone on that just wants to be on the podcast and come talk. Because it's really what this is about, is just having conversations with other people. I've just branded it as getting after it, right? So it's like whatever you're going and whatever you're doing in life, I want to hear about it and I want to talk to you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something specific you're getting after, but I want to talk to you about your life experiences. So that's where I see the future episodes of the podcast leaning towards, is maybe going through and talking about some of these life experiences that some people have, and then just talking about those specifics. That's where we learn the most, is from each other's experiences and all that. And at least that's where I've learned the most from other people is from their experience, right? They come to you and they say, "Hey, don't do this thing because it'll delay your progress for your goals," or whatever that might be. So those are just a couple updates that I'm thinking about with the podcast, because I want to keep doing it. I want to make sure that it's entertaining and interesting and fun, and then also motivating. That's one thing in our lives that I think we all could use a little bit more of at times, is just some more motivation, either internally or from other people. So I'm going to be trying to balance all those different things: entertainment, motivation, excitement, and interest. I'll bring people on that I'm interested in talking to. One week it might be a cop. The next week it might be someone who works at a Walgreens. I don't know, anyone. So just stay tuned for those things. But what I wanted to touch on the most today is the idea of commitment versus interest. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to go into, but usually I end the podcast with a quote, right? But I want to actually start this one with a quote from someone named Ken Blanchard. And he says this: he says, "There's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in doing something, you do it only when it's convenient. When you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results." This and that's the end of the quote. But this is something that I've noticed a lot with my goal setting, or anything that I'm trying to accomplish in my life, is differentiating between whether or not I'm interested in that or I'm committed to it. Because like Ken says, there's a a significant difference between those two. And let me give you an example real quick. So I have mentioned on this podcast a lot that I love exercising. I love weightlifting. I love getting in the gym and doing something extremely hard first thing in the morning. It just puts me in a good mindset, and it's like my therapy. So I'm a big advocate of personal and physical fitness. With that being said, when I first started learning, I had a almost like a coach or a trainer. Wasn't necessarily that, but it was a guy that was at the gym all the time, and I would always ask him questions or advice. And when I was going, then I was trying to focus on more of like, I wanted to slim down a little bit. I know right now I don't look like I need to slim down. I need to start packing on the pounds, which going into, and we'll cover that a little bit more in a future episode. But at the time, I was trying to slim down, trying to cut my calories back and do all those things. And so I would talk to the trainer and be like, "Okay, well, what do you think I should be eating for dinner?" And he'd give me some things like, "Okay, go home and make sure you're eating vegetables, a good source of lean protein, and maybe some carbs on the side to fuel your workouts and give you some energy throughout your day. And I would listen to his advice and I would apply those things. I'd go home and I would eat vegetables, a little bit of carbs, like you said, and some lean protein. And then I'd say, okay, well, what about my workouts? Let's talk about some of those things. And so he'd give me some ideas of what I could be doing to push myself and help burn more fat, but maintain my muscle. And I would do these things and go back to him and say, man, I'm just not seeing the results that I initially anticipated I would. And I'm not sure why. And he's like, well, just keep doing it. Like, you have to stay committed to what you're doing and you have to stay consistent to what you're doing. So I would say things like, okay, cool. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to go back and make sure I'm eating healthy. I'm not going to eat any junk foods. No more fast food. Throw that out the window. We're not doing that. But I was rigid. I was rigid in maintaining these things that he would tell me to go do, right? So I would make sure that I was eating healthy. I would do these workouts that he was telling me to do. And I saw nothing come from it. So like 2 months goes by and I'm like, what is going on, man? Like, you're telling me these things and I've seen no results change. And he goes, okay, well, how many calories are you eating a day? I'm like, I don't know. I just do what you tell me to do. And I go and I eat these healthy meals. I work out. I do these workouts. And he's like, well, you have to start tracking those things down. Like, okay. Like, obviously, like, in his mind, he's like, this is an obvious thing you're not doing. You're not tracking down what you're saying that you're doing. And that's obviously leading to dulled progress or like a plateau that you're facing. And that was the main point. And that's what he focused on. He's like, if you want results, you have to track what you're doing. You have to make little notes, weigh out your food, see how many calories you're doing. How many hours of cardio are you doing a week? What's your workouts look like with weightlifting? Like, are you tracking these things down? But I never was. I was just listening to him and then kind of going off my own insight. So I'd go home and I'd eat like a lean source of protein. I'd eat a good healthy amount of vegetables and then some type of complex carbohydrate like potatoes, oats, rice, that kind of stuff. My problem was I wasn't tracking the quantities of those things. So I would eat a ton of meat, right? Or a ton of carbs with those meals, which ultimately, like, I wasn't tracking the calories. I was tracking just the types of foods. And as soon as I started writing down as like just little basic notes of, okay, well, I did 30 minutes of cardio today. I ate X amount of calories and whatnot. And I just started tracking and like mindfully acknowledging where I was at. Then I began to see the process change a little bit. And I saw myself begin to grow and hit some of these goals. And it was just because I was making small notes about it, following through and staying committed. And like that quote says, not making any excuses for it. So it was a learning process, right? I'd go back to this guy. His name was Jason. And I'd go talk to Jason and say, okay, well, here's what I'm doing. And he'd say, okay, we'll just change a couple little things. And we'd go back and forth. Anyways, he became a good friend. And anyways, going back to the point of the story is I had no results until I started writing things down and tracking what I was doing and following through on them and staying consistent. It's like you can have all these great ideas and you can eat healthy or work out or, do certain goals at work, whatever your inclination is. But you have to stay committed. You have to like follow through. You have to make sure that you're staying on top of what you're doing because that's where the results come. And that's my challenge to everyone. This episode of the podcast is sit down. I try and release these on Monday. So try and do this at the beginning of the week if you can. But sit down and think about what your goals are and set some long-term, short-term, and kind of medium goals to get you there. But anyway, so identify what your long-term goals are. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Obviously, that's incredibly hard to decide. Like, okay, well, I want to do this in 3 years because so much can change within that time. But just set goals for yourself of where you want to see yourself in life, right? And then start making smaller goals to help you achieve them. So say you want to lose 50 pounds, and I'm sorry I keep bringing up the analogy of fitness or what and stories about fitness, but it's probably the easiest in my opinion of just kind of relating to a little bit. But say you want to lose 50 pounds in a year. That's a lot of work. That's going to take a lot of work. And you can't just say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and then try and go after that goal. What you have to do is set small little milestone goals along the way. Like, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 months by exercising every day, eating a little bit healthier, and cutting out this in my diet. And just like make small little changes to your life. And that's what you'll understand too is once you do make some of these changes, you start following through, you'll notice areas that you can improve and get better at just organically and naturally. And when you have these goals in your mind and you know that, at the back of your head, you do want to lose 50 pounds in a year, it's going to help you make better decisions. You're not going to want to go and stop at a gas station and grab a donut, right? Or you're not going to go eat out with your friends and eat a bunch of garbage. You'll probably eat some cleaner meals and just focus on that, because that idea is if you really want to lose that 50 pounds in a year, you have to stay committed to these short-term goals that you're setting for yourself, and you have to follow through. That's what's important, is actually saying that you're going to do something. When I was when I was a little bit younger, I'd go over to my grandpa's house almost every weekend and just help him with the yard and mow his yard, help him with irrigation, whatever we were doing, pulling lemons off trees. It was always a good time. But he's like the classic farmer type. He grew up. He was I think he had a cotton farm. I know watermelons. He used to farm those things. Anyways, he's a pretty tough dude. And I remember one lesson he always would say to us is like, one thing in life you only have is your word and your commitment. And he is the type of guy that is like, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. And he's always like, just follow through. Stay true to your word and be an honest person. And that always stuck with me as a kid, and it's something that I've always tried living my life by. And because I want someone to be like, okay, well, Brett said he's going to do that. He's going to do it. He might, be a little bit slow. He might have to learn how to do it. Whatever that thing is, he's going to do it. And I try to live my life like that because I want people to be able to rely on me. I want them to be able to trust me. And it goes the same with your goals and your commitment to yourself. Like, don't lie to yourself. If you're interested in something, if you're interested in a goal and not committed to it, that interest is going to die off after a while. We can also relate that to things like this podcast. I'll be completely upfront. Like, I tried posting on social media every single day, and it was just getting hard. Not necessarily hard, but the content I was producing was not valuable in my eyes for my audience. Like, I just feel like if I'm going to post something, I want it to be of value, and I want people to be able to see that and either be uplifted or inspired to go do something that's going to help them ultimately. My goal with this is to help people and inspire whatever that might be. I want to make sure that they know that I can always be relied on if needed. So that's where the idea of like honesty comes from, in my opinion. But follow through with your goals. So set them and don't make them too crazy. Set your goals. Don't make them all over the place, and make them achievable, right? And you obviously want to be able to do it. And then start taking action and finding ways that you can better your life, become a better person, and follow through on your goals. It's really that, it is that simple if you really think about it. And one thing that I really like to do, it's like an exercise almost, is think about like where I'm going to be in the next 3 hours. So like my 3-hour future self will thank me. And this is something that like I'll do when I am really tired at a workout. I don't want to go do a workout. I'll say, okay, well, if I follow through and I do this workout in 3 hours, I'm going to be thanking myself because I'm going to be feeling better. I'm going to be stronger. And my mind will be a little bit more active and open because I started exercising. Or if it's, I need to go to bed early, but I want to continue watching this movie, I'll just go to bed and realize that I can finish the movie the next day and whatever. I'm just trying to show out the different examples there. But be mindful of where you're at and tell yourself stories that help you achieve your goals. And then just be accountable to yourself. So having some sort of system, you know, to help you follow through, whether that's writing things down, tracking it in a spreadsheet, but just make sure that you're accountable to yourself and don't lie to yourself. Don't make up excuses. Just go get after what you're trying to accomplish and call it good. Because if you're externally motivated, that's great. But it's the internal motivation that is harder to develop. But if you're tracking and you can see your progress, it's going to be a little bit easier to fight those mental battles when they come up because you're going to be consistent. So have like a weekly check-in or something like that to where, after you go through your week, to take a step back and be like, okay, here's where I could have gotten better. Here's a few things that I think I did well. And here's what I'm going to go after this next week. And just keep doing that. And you'll be very surprised. Your goals will come a lot easier than you think they are. As long as you have a plan set in place and you're remaining consistent to staying true to your goals and who you are. And that's really like the main things I just wanted to touch on. And with that being said, here's the quote that I wanted to leave everyone with this week. And it is, your values, beliefs, commitments, desires, and your words should always resonate with your actions and behaviors. To have a smooth life, a successful career, or a skyrocketing business, follow through is inevitable. And that's it. I don't know who said that. It's anonymous. We're just going with it. But it's a very important principle is, your values, beliefs, commitments, desires, and words should always resonate with your actions and behaviors. So whatever you're committed to, whatever you're trying to accomplish, that should be expressed in your demeanor. And people should be able to see that, right? So if you're someone who's hungry and trying to accomplish all these things at work, and obviously people are going to notice that and be like, okay, well, that person, they want a future here and they're working hard to get that. So just think about that as you go throughout your week. And it's a little bit shorter of an episode of a podcast, but the principles are important and it's a crucial one. Follow through, stay true to your word, and stay committed. And when you set up your goals, figure out whether or not you are interested in your goals or you're committed to achieving them, because you won't achieve goals that you're interested in. You will achieve the goals that you're committed to. So find goals that you can work on this week and get better at them. Keep getting after it. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the podcast. If you have any tips or feedback or anything like that, let me know. Always open to hearing that. You can hit or throw those my way on social media or whatever's easiest. And if you need a blanket, go to snugblankets.com. They're all handmade, sewn blankets, unreal. If you want to just get better at life, then I don't know, get better at life. I was going to try and create a fake commercial there, but I think that's probably just the best sign for me to stop doing this. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and have a great one and keep getting after it.